Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Has significantly impacted the economy and has significantly affected different sectors' operations. MSME, being one of the most diverse of these sectors, has its own share of new hurdles and barriers to overcome. However, over the course of time, it has grown to be more resilient and stands well prepared and equipped to face the ongoing and upcoming challenges with the pandemic. One significant step that has helped keep the sector afloat, helping it adapt and adjust to the pandemic era, has been the adoption of technology. But what is the way forward? How can the SMEs not survive but thrive in the long? To talk more about the theme, we are joined in a main panel of speakers who will share its COVID-19 me in India. Gentlemen, we're ready. Please join me welcoming our distinguished panelists, Mr. Dick Poddar, co-founder of Plum, Dr. Sharma, founder Seven Seas and founder of Caliber, Mr. been famously known as the viral cancer, and Mr. Shardul Singh, CEO and Nish. I would like to invite Mr. Shardul and CEO. Gentlemen, if you're ready for the next session, to you, Mr. Nair.
Hello, thanks Sneha, and thanks everyone for joining in for this session, COVID-19 and the next normal. And before I let everyone to introduce themselves, I would like to share a few things, which is more around, I think the last 2 years has been phenomenal and once in a lifetime experience for everybody, and I'm sure that including the audience and all of you, we all agree that this has been the case, and it has been, I think, mostly bad for the humankind, and it has been a challenge for both personally and professionally. And I think a lot of businesses had to navigate themselves to kind of come out of these difficulties. Many have to change their business model or maybe change their service offerings. And at times they may have to actually also shut down, which has been very unfortunate. And as we think that now we are moving into the normal phase, I think Omicron is kind of knocking our head. We still got to be very careful, ensure that we follow the protocol, and ensure that we don't end up into this third wave as we got off guard in the second wave, and it was very difficult for all of us. So I think with that, I will try and ensure that as a group that we drive home a point with this session, that how we as a group can help the community by sharing our knowledge, experience, and the learnings of the last 2 years to ensure that the community, the MSc community, can get the benefit of this shared vision and the learning. So with that, I will open up the forum with my introduction first, and then I'll request the panel speakers to introduce themselves. I'm Suresh Nagar, CEO and co-founder of Easy Medico, based out of Indore, Madhya Pradesh. We are busy with organizing the unorganized pharmacy retail sector, predominantly with presence in Madhya Pradesh. We have around 70 franchise physical stores across 25 cities in India, in MP, and aiming to be around 150 stores by this financial year end. With that, I will request panel speakers to introduce themselves. Maybe I'll ask Abhishek to introduce first, and then we'll go to the next one.
Hey, thank you so much, Suresh, and really good to be here with everyone. My name is Abhishek Poddar. I'm the co-founder of a company called Plum. We are building a health insurance and health benefits platform very targeted towards SMEs and MSMEs. And hence this topic is a very, very relevant topic for what we are building. The reason we are building Plum in the first place is we saw how employee health insurance as a product was very restricted to the larger corporates. While the India is being run by SMEs and MSMEs, the largest number of employment actually happens through SMEs and MSMEs, but these SMEs and MSMEs were not able to give the kind of health insurance that the larger corporates were able to give. And that's a kind of platform we want to build so that companies, even as small as 2 employees, MSME as small as 2 employees, should be able to set up a health insurance program for their employees, hopefully in less than a minute, for as low as 85 rupees. So we'll talk more about the experience that we have seen in terms of building this platform and working with SMEs and MSMEs. But I'll hand it over to Dr. Arpit to give a quick intro as well.
Hey guys, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me clearly. I'm in the middle of the desert right now. But I'm Arpit Sharma, founder of 7 Seas Spas and also Caliber Protein. The idea came up that I traveled the world and I saw that there is a category of cities known as blue zones, where people live the longest and maximum population are over 100 years. So I thought, why not create a concept, why not create an ecosystem where we can have those kind of wellness and health for people, where people can live longer in India as well. So I came up with the idea of 7 Seas Spas, where we plan gut health, where we plan wellness, where we plan their treatments. I also founded Caliber Protein, which is a nutrition company. So we do protein bars, we do energy bars, we do bars for your skin, we do bars for your gut health. So that's the entire concept, and I've been doing that for almost 14 years. We've been doing spas for right now, currently, because of the pandemic, we have lost a lot of business, but at the moment we're doing around 16 spas. But pre-pandemic, we were doing almost 30 spas. So this is a great session because I would like to give first-hand input what pandemic did to our business and how we survived, kept ourselves afloat, and thriving now, looking at the conditions. So I'll pass it forward. Thank you.
Great. Viral, you want to introduce yourself?
Super. Thanks everyone. Great to be here. So I'm Viral, the co-founder of SmartStaff. I am a second-time entrepreneur. Started the company with 3 other co-founders who were my colleagues in the past, in late 2020. What we're essentially doing at SmartStaff is we're building a blue-collar focused, mobile-first workforce management platform that is focused primarily on the manufacturing industry. At the core of it, the platform digitizes and automates all aspects of workforce management, starting with attendance capturing and going up to payrolling, shift rostering, and all of that, right? We started the company with the idea and with the vision of really helping each of India's blue-collar workforce get access to better quality work. Better work for us, is defined as work that pays you fairly, work that is transparent, and work that has equal opportunity. Coincidentally, what the first wave of the pandemic had done to the country is really it had drastically displaced the blue collar workforce segment, right? So it seemed like the best time to build products to make the lives of India's blue collar workforce better, and that's what led us to start the company.
Great. I think wonderful insight. I think good to know about the individual companies and also to how passionate you are about your businesses. Great. I will start with Abhishek, asking him particularly about what kind of challenges that your company have faced in the last 2 years, and especially around this, whether it has affected positively or negatively, and that you took it as an opportunity. And can you take us through this last 2 years of journey, and did you have to pivot any of the things?
No, absolutely. So a bit of background. We, as a company, Plum, we started right before COVID. This is in November 2019 when we hadn't heard the word COVID. And then March 2020 happened. I think we saw both aspects of COVID. There was some goods and some challenges as well. I think on the positive side, and especially being a insurance tech company, COVID really provided a tailwind to our business. If we interview people now versus, let's say, if we would have interviewed people 2 years ago, we see almost a 10x increase in the awareness of health insurance among the Indian population. And the reason being, each one of us, right? Each one of us would know some close family member or a colleague that went through a really terrible experience with respect to COVID, especially in the second wave. And that basically brought this awareness and importance of health insurance in the minds of people. And that essentially went to the corporates as well, corporates or the employers as well, wherein the employees started talking about, hey, we need health insurance support from our employer. So that essentially created a much larger need of employee health insurance in the India ecosystem. Even smaller companies that are just starting up, companies, I talk to a lot of founders who are just thinking of setting up a company. And right when they're thinking of setting up a company, they're also thinking about what to do for their employees with respect to health insurance and health benefits. So that's a cultural shift that has happened in the last 2 years in the mindset of employers and employees. So I think that's the good part, which is the demand of what we are building has gone up, and it has gone to the MSMEs and SMEs as well, rather than being restricted to the corporates. On the challenges side, I think we had two challenges. One is in a world of COVID, when people are all working from home, you're not meeting people. And especially when you are a company that is just starting out, right? You have to hire the first employee and the 10th employee and the 100th employee. You have to do everything in a remote setup. You have to hire and you have to build a culture in a remote setup. And that's something that I had never done before. For me, it was all new on, hey, how to even assess people over a Zoom call. I think that was the learning. I mean, that was a challenge, and that's the learning that we have had. A lot of failures as well in that journey on how to hire, and then how to keep pushing our team members to stay aligned with what we are building, stay aligned with the vision, right? If you're in the same room with them, they see the energy and they get energy from you as a founder. But if you're not in the same room, if you're on Zoom, how do you pass on that energy to everyone in your team? That has been a challenge. So I would say hiring and building the team has been the first challenge. The second challenge has been that I think we were very lucky to be in a business where the overall industry grew because of COVID, but most of the industries had gone through a negative cycle because of COVID, which really means that the budgets of these companies in these industries were really tight in terms of spending on employee benefits or employee health insurance, and that pushed, even if the employers wanted to spend on employee health insurance, they had to push down on the budget that they had. But I think that is now recovering as we start seeing the economy recovering, that budgets have started coming back. But it was definitely a temporary blip that we saw for a period of year.
So do you think that these new challenges which have emerged, are they going to be like permanent challenges, or do you think that this is going to shift? Like, for example, I'm sure, and I would resonate with you, that there is a lot of awareness around the employee health insurance, and especially which was lacking in the smaller scale companies and especially in the MSME. And I'll give my example as wherein we decided to go ahead with the group health insurance policy for all of our employees. It was during the COVID, during the first wave itself, that we decided that I think we need to ensure that each of our employees is covered, and ensure that they are aware of the benefits that they can draw out of these insurance policies, and make sure that they feel comfortable, their families feel comfortable with the insurance that they have. Because, emergencies doesn't come telling you that this is an emergency, and as long as you can still feel protected with the financial support, I think that's the least somebody can feel good about. So that's what we did. Now I would ask you a follow-up question whether the push has come from the employees or it is the company themselves are feeling that I think this is something that we need to do as part of the overall people policy.
See, it's a combination of both, Suresh. There is definitely a lot of uh, push from the employees, right? And I have heard from founders saying, "Hey, I am not able to uh, I'm not able to attract this kind of talent because now the talent has started asking me, hey, do you provide employee health insurance? Do you provide insurance for my parents as well, right? To that extent, or hey, do you provide maternity cover, etc. So a lot of employees have started having these kind of conversations, but it's also coming from the more forward-looking employers. It's not just that the employees are pushing for it. I think the employers have also seen that in their close quarters, right? And you were talking about your experience, Suresh, right? And in your case, you might not have heard it from an employee, but you would have had people, your family members, or other colleagues who would have gone through this experience. So you know it very firsthand that, hey, I need to take care of my team members in the first place, right? So it's a combination of both employees and employers. The other question that you asked was, hey, is this a permanent shift? Uh, I think this is one area where uh, if you start giving employees employee health insurance or other kind of benefits, it is almost impossible to take it back from them, right? In your organization life cycle. And and so hence, I think as the employers start doing this, uh, I see this as a permanent shift that has happened through the Indian economy, actually globally as well, not just Indian economy. I think globally this is a permanent shift in terms of how organizations think about employees and caring about employees.
So I think we definitely get this message, and I think it's universal that that the COVID has brought in the awareness about the health and the insurance in particular. I'm sure that has led to the cost of the insurance also going up, but at the same time, I think the awareness needed to be there. I think the way that the COVID-19 has helped the digitalization and the e-commerce industry. Similarly, the health insurance is also one area which has taken a significant, I think, the step ahead for it. I'm sure.
Yeah, and I would add to it, Suresh, that uh, that's one thing that we are working a lot on in terms of pushing the affordability part, right? We
I
understand
think
that.
let me move on to the next panelist, keeping the time and I'll come back to you. Dr. Arpit, would you want to share your experience of the challenges that your company has gone through in this last 2 years? Something that you want to share with the panel and the audience?
Thank you, Suresh. Yeah, of course. I think for spas, I think we were the first ones to close and the last ones to open. So we went through a lot, and for us, the business completely became zero. We had a lot of staff. We had a staff of around 180 therapists at the peak when it was the government told us to lock down. So we went through a lot because we didn't know what to do. Should we wait for the government to give us some kind of relief on it, or should we let go of people, let them go home? So for the first 5 months, we were paying salaries. For the first 5 months, we were taking care of the staff. Then we realized that we don't know where this is going. So we had to forcefully send people on holidays, cut their salaries into half, and tell them, okay, just stay afloat, just stay with the company, and after say next 4 or 5 months, we'll be back. But then we saw what happened, and almost 2 years passed. So what we realized was that we had to really squeeze our operations. We had a big team in our office of operations. Then we had to cut him down. We had to cut it down to half the team, and we had to cut down on a therapist. We had to cut down on the complete team. For example, our average staff in one spa is around 15 people. We had to cut down and bring it down to 8 people, and that's how we were taking care of the management, the single person was taking care of the reception, single person was taking care of the guest. So we really had to squeeze down. And what we realized was that that's the only way we could keep ourselves afloat. And now what has happened is now we're calling all those people back. Slowly we are reopening all the spas that we have. And of course, they went through a lot. We appreciate that they want to come back in the company, but that's how we did it. We had to keep ourselves afloat. If we didn't do that, which at that time was very disheartening that we had to let people go. If we didn't do that, we would probably wouldn't have come back from where we were in such a worse scenario.
Great, great. So, I mean, definitely that this is especially these kind of industries, the gym, spas, those really were affected, and the hospitality industry also were affected. Now you see that you have been able to kind of streamline and cut down on a lot of expenses and try to be lean and mean. Now, has it been a positive change for your organization? Like, say, I mean, how do you operate as a lean and mean company and ensure that you continue to maintain your top line as well as the of course this would have positively affected your bottom line, but at the same time has it affected your top line also? And that is something that going forward you need to take a look at it and see what changes that you would need to make.
Of course, all our top line, bottom line, everything was affected really badly. So like I said, we went through a lot, but we learned one thing, that we had to completely change our business model. We were working on a certain revenue share model with hotels. We were working on certain models in bars, but we had to. We finally decided that we had to change it. We will not be able to survive on those models. And we spoke to our partners. We had a couple of negotiations. We added couple of more services for our partners, so they understand that okay, we want to probably have more of their slice, but we want to give more as well. So we had to change our model. We had to add some minimum guarantees. We had to add some more revenues. We added some more services from our side, which of course takes more of effort for us. But that's okay. That's the way we had to adapt and go forward.
Okay. I'll move on to Viral. Viral, would you like to share your experience in the journey of the last 2 years? Something that you think is worth sharing? Challenges that you have faced?
Yeah. So, when you think about what challenges the last 2 years have brought to our company, and I think for companies and businesses globally, the one word that sort of strikes out for me is uncertainty. Right. I think that's what the pandemic brought the most. Right. So for us, in our business, the way that I see it, we've got three key stakeholders, right? We've got our employees, right? We've then got blue collar workers who we are building products for. And we've got businesses, right? Who we're trying to digitize and automate workforce management practices for, right? When you look at what uncertainty was created for all three of these key stakeholders, right? Which sort of need to be addressed for the business to move forward. I'm quickly going to start with the first bucket, right, which is for our employees and for people that are building the company and business with us. What the pandemic brought was a lot of question and doubt on where the business is headed, where each person's future is headed, right? So for us, really addressing uncertainty came from a place of just being able to communicate very, very well, keep all of our colleagues, all of our employees posted on what is happening, where the business is going, and what we have in store for the upcoming quarters, right? I feel like communication is extremely undervalued, and good communication can do a lot, right? Just to put your team at ease and help them refocus on things that matter, right? Which is building the product and taking the company forward. I'll quickly jump to our second stakeholder, right? Our blue-collared workers. Now, one part of our business is a staffing sort of service that we provide to manufacturing companies, right? We take a bunch of blue-collared workers on our payroll. We then, help them with best management practices, help train them, and these workers then work at different manufacturing companies as, sort of third-party employees, right? What the pandemic also brought, and I'm sure all of us have read enough stories of blue-collar workers flocking back to their villages, taking long walks, catching trains just to go back to their villages, primarily because there was so much uncertainty, right? No one knew what the future holds for them, because suddenly overnight, over a period of a couple of weeks, their workplace shut down. Most of the contractors, staffing companies, and people that they relied on for their daily income suddenly were unreachable. So for them, the only way out was that, look, let's just head back home, right? We have nothing to do here. The only thing that they could fall back on was essentially their hometown and their village, right? So what we did at that point, right? So we started the business post the first wave, right? And just like most of us, we had assumed that the first would be the last wave and there were only good times ahead, right? And then cut to March 2021 when the second wave hit, right? Similar sort of feelings came back. There was a lot of uncertainty. A lot of our workers were forced to think about what the future holds for them. It was at that point that we realized that the easiest way to put our workers at ease and to solve for this uncertainty was to leverage data that we have on our platform and help workers just get access to finance more easily, right? So typically, all of us white collar employees get paid on a monthly basis, right? As do blue collar folks, right? They get paid the following month for all of the work and all of the hours that they put in the previous work. Because we had a fully automated, digitized workforce management system, we could now move our payroll cycle from a monthly to a weekly payroll cycle, right? So what that allowed us to do was tell workers that, look, we will now be able to pay you for all of the work that you have done this week instead of, having you wait for the following week, right? We also could extend very, very small salary advances to our workers to help keep them at ease and the idea was that, look, once companies reopen, you will get work again. And at that point, you'll be able to, very comfortably pay us back the advance that we're giving you, right? So very, very small steps, but the underlying objective was to address uncertainty, right? And of course, for businesses, because we were taking care of our workers extremely well, that put businesses that worked with us at ease. Because they knew that, once the pandemic is behind us, once businesses reopen, for them getting access to a reliable and upskilled staff would be fairly easy because of a good job that we had done taking care of our workers. Right? So yeah, that in a nutshell was sort of the problem and how we...
Sorry, I tried to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Do you think that people who had migrated during this pandemic time, especially in the first wave, I think visuals were very, very disturbing for everybody all across India. People who were moving back to their hometown. And I myself had spoken to some of the people who were passing through our highways, and they were passing from, they were moving from Mumbai to back to their hometown in UP or elsewhere. And most of them were saying that, we had enough of it and we want to go back to our parents or families. There itself, now will not want to come back. So has that changed now and people have started to come back? Percentage of this workforce will continue to remain back in their villages or the hometown? Or you think that
I think there's a little disturbance on Arpit's end. Arpit, could you just go on mute? Okay, I think it's much better. So yeah, I mean, definitely, right? I think like you rightly mentioned, all of us have heard enough stories and experienced very on a first-hand basis the horror that the first wave brought, especially to blue-collared workers, right? There was a lot of reverse migration. Folks essentially had to go back to their villages because there was now no source of income, no certainty of what the future holds, right? So, one very unique thing about India's blue-collar workforce is the fact that a large part of our workforce engages with businesses not directly as employees, but they engage with them as contingent workers, right? So most of them, sort of have a middleman or a staffing company that forms a link between them and businesses, right? What that, of course, allows businesses to do is scale very, very easily, right? And it also allows businesses to, on some level, be asset light because they've got now they rely on these staffing companies to quickly scale up and scale down their workforce. But what that did for workers was essentially it gave them no person to fall back on during these uncertain times, right? And that's what caused a lot of the panic, a lot of the reverse migration. After the first wave, when businesses and factories started to open up, right, when a lot of these workers started to come back, what most businesses had experienced was one entire cycle, right, of shutting down and reopening, right? So when the second wave came and, when businesses were forced to shut down, we know a lot of manufacturing companies that even at that point continued to provide minimum wages to a large part of their workforce because they knew that this was temporary, right? This was very, very short term, which is why during the second wave, the impact was a lot lower, right? You saw a lot lesser reverse migration and the bounce back was much, much faster, right? So, yeah.
I agree with that. I think I'll move to Abhishek and ask him, I mean, how do you see this next 6 months to 1 year kind of looking from a business point of view, or what kind of things that you expect would be happening in this, especially in the MSME sector, is what we would be more interested to know about.
Absolutely. I think I will borrow what Viral, the word Viral had used, right? Which is there's a lot of uncertainty. I think that uncertainty still exists. I think what we as founders or operators of business need to be prepared for is these uncertainties can be either good for the business or bad for the business. And we have to be ready for both sides of what may happen, right? So, for example, when we talked about insurance, it was a good upside for us, but a business has to be prepared to leverage if an upside happens because of some unexpected event. And the reverse also is true, right? Which is, hey, suddenly a lockdown happens overnight. How do we make sure that our business continues to be running? Or suddenly, let's say, the demand of the business dries down. We want to keep the business alive, even if the demand goes down. So I think the way we need to think of running the business is just be prepared for both aspects of that uncertainty, and rather than just the negative part of the uncertainty, be also prepared for the positive part of that uncertainty, because that could also happen. This is one of the examples that I was talking to another founder of a home security business. This home security business wasn't doing well. This was back in 2007, 2008, and suddenly the Mumbai attack happened, right? And overnight, that business, which was going to shut down, was in a situation where they were unable to meet the demand, right? So I think we as founders or operators of the business just be ready for both sides.
Okay, great, thanks. Viral, what do you have to say about this next 6 months to 1 year? What kind of preparation or what kind of things that you actually foresee and that the company should be prepared with?
So, the future is, of course, embracing uncertainty, right? Like Abhishek rightly mentioned, there are always two sides of the coin, right? There's so much positive to take away from uncertain times, as there is, so much negativity that uncertain times bring to each sort of stakeholder of a business, right? I think over the next 6 months to 12 months, with the new variant of the virus picking up, I think one thing that businesses need to be prepared for is to deal with all sorts of challenges that uncertain times bring, right? One thing that the pandemic has done extremely well is it has allowed us to move to an environment where we're not physically required to be present in office to work and get things moving, right? And one thing that businesses need to be prepared for is that, if there are times when offices need to be shut, how do you still keep the engine moving, right? How do you still keep the ship moving, and not allow things to hit pause like they did in the first part of the first wave, right? In March, right? All through March, I think most businesses were still grappling with the fact that, look, if people are not coming to office, how do you get work done, right? And how do you hire remotely, and so on and so forth, right? So yeah, I think what most businesses need to be prepared for is to keep the ship moving in uncertain times, and whatever it takes, right? For some businesses, it could be as simple as, moving from offline physical marketing to digital marketing, right? Because you can now no more physically go out and hand out pamphlets and meet people and engage with them and so on and so forth, right? For software businesses, it could be something as simple as, not being able to demo your product physically, and the need for you to demo it online, right? Through Zoom, through Hangouts, and whatever other platform you can use to help a potential customer see and experience your product, right? So this is sort of applicable across. Of course, for MSMEs, it is also realigning your supply chain in uncertain times, right? Not being able to physically meet a vendor and negotiate with him, but do it on the phone, do it over a call, and so on and so forth. So there is uncertainty across, and I think the only thing that we as founders and all MSMEs need to focus on is building strengths, capabilities to essentially be able to survive and thrive in uncertain times.
Okay, great. I think what this also means, and we can probably categorize some of these things into one is from the consumer side, is that there are few of the changes have been the habit forming changes, that those habit forming changes are generally difficult to change for a business which are they say in the e-commerce, and for the fintech, say the payment systems. For them, this pandemic has come in as an opportunity. They were able to drive changes much faster, and the adoption of the payment systems, the wallets, the UPI is really, as we can see, the numbers really growing up, the uses of it. Is that this particular pandemic has brought in that kind of an opportunity, where something that could have taken probably another 4 years, we were able to achieve all those, probably whatever the target that these companies would have had is within this first year itself, with this pandemic coming. So, of course, for them, this was an opportunity. And this also meant that they were able to ensure that the consumers or the customers were able to adopt this and make sure that they become habitual to these things. So there are certain things which is like they will go back to the pre-pandemic phase. Certain things will get back to that, and certain things will remain permanent. So something like this probably will remain permanent as long as it is good for the economic, for the people in general, ease of doing business. So obviously, the cash management has always been a much major challenge for everybody, and for the businesses, and especially MSME. I'm sure that there may be a lot of cash transactions. They were there pre-pandemic, and I'm sure that would have reduced significantly during this pandemic time. I wish that this continues even after this. We move into the normal phase and not get back to the cash economy or the cash-based of transactions. Of course, this is not applicable for each and every MSME business, but of course, whatever best is possible, I think that people should be able to adopt to that. With that, I will also ask once again, Abhishek, as to what is key learnings that you would want to carry on from here on from this the last 2 years, whatever has happened, and also want to share with the MSME community that can draw some benefit and relate to your business? I'll say your learnings.
Yeah, I think two learnings. One, that there has been a permanent change in terms of how people work. 2 years ago, I would have never imagined a concept of work from home or a concept of hybrid. And now, because people have gone through those 2 years where they have experienced that they can be efficient in a hybrid approach or from a work from home approach, it is impossible for us to move back to 2019 style of working, and we have to embrace that new normal. When we think of how we want to build our teams, how we want to build our office environment, our working culture, I don't think we have the answers of what's the most efficient hybrid model is, and we will all discover that in the next few months or quarters. But I think the learning is that we have to embrace that and figure out what really works. The second learning, and this is more so from SME, MSME business, is that the industries, every industry that you go into has become more and more competitive. There are more and more entrepreneurs who are building businesses, no matter what industry you take. And hence, building business is much more difficult than it was maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But that's also an opportunity. The opportunity is that there are more businesses like what Viral is building, for example, right? There are more businesses that are building technologies to enable your SME or MSME business. And hence, I would ask every entrepreneur, every SME operator, MSME operator to look at what innovation that they can do by leveraging the technology that is getting built for your segment of business. Be it how to automate your workforce, your payroll, be it how to automate your employee insurance, be it how to automate your finances, your HR, whatever that is. I think there are now so many businesses that are building tools and technologies for SMEs that we shouldn't shy away from automating each and every aspects of our business.
Okay. Viral, you want to give a shot at what kind of learning that you want to share with this MSME community, something that that can help prepare themselves for the anything, something that can happen in the next few years, something that never anticipated. But at the same time, we can't build our business model only for this kind of pandemic scenarios, right? So we need to be sure about whatever the changes that we make in these kind of scenarios, and ensure that we get back to our core business model, and ensure, of course, we would expect to make some changes to the core business model, but anything that could completely derail your entire sustainability just because you have completely shifted gear to survive this pandemic, and then there is no way to kind of come back back to your regular business model. I mean, anything that you want to throw light on?
Yeah. So, couple of things, right? I'm sure all of y'all have heard this very popular phrase that the only thing that's constant is change, right? For me personally, there's never been a time where I've sort of felt that more, and that's something that me and the rest of our team embraces, right? We know that the way the world is today, the world is going to be very, very different tomorrow, and it will be very, very different day after tomorrow, right? So the only thing that the way that I look at it as a founder is, as long as you have, your focus on your North Star metric, right? Whatever it is that you are building for, whatever it is that you are optimizing for, as long as you are razor sharp focus on achieving that, and if you can build your business around change, around the fact that things are going to be different tomorrow, how do I still get up and achieve my North Star metric every single day despite changing environments, right? I feel like that is one key learning that I'd like to share, right, with businesses that are listening to this, and that sort of want to be extremely agile in today's environment, right? One other sort of key learning is the fact that I speak to a lot of small businesses that are essentially also just starting up, right? And the first question, and a very very common question that I get asked a lot of times is, are we a startup, right? Why can't we be called a startup, right? We're also sort of starting off right now. There's so the one word that I think for me defines and makes a company a startup is the fact that you can grow exponentially, right? If a company can grow more than the 20-30% that your traditional companies are able to grow, then you are a startup, right? You could be a startup that builds technology. You could be a startup that uses technology to build a business which is non-tech, right? Which is what a lot of companies do today. So the one thing that is common, and I think that makes a company a startup, which is a fast growth company, is the fact that they use technology to enable fast paced growth, right? So for any MSME, right, that aspires to be a startup, right, which is today a very very sexy word, right? Everyone wants to be the founder or wants to work at a startup, right? As opposed to what it was a decade back or 5-6 years back. My sort of recommendation would be to constantly look out for technology, right? And to constantly look out for ways that you can automate and digitize different parts of your business, because that is what will allow you to grow exponentially. Therefore, that is what will make you a startup, right? So yeah, that would be my sort of key learnings that I'd like to share.
Thanks a lot. I think one of the things that I would also like to add here is that, especially this last 2 years has taught everyone to be lean and mean. At the same time, be customer focused as well, and their stakeholder focus, which is like, say, for some, the employees were a key stakeholder, ensure that their health and well-being is being taken care of. For some, the customers has been a very, very core, of course, the customer is always a core stakeholder, but at the same time, helping those customers during the pandemic time, and especially me coming from the health industry and supply chain side of it, we needed to ensure that the supplies are reaching to the furthermost areas. Of course, the towns and the metros were being taken care of as far as the distribution supply chain, but even they were also affected. Now you just think about how it would have affected the remote areas as the remote district with the lockdowns, and the transportation is affected, etc., etc. And it took some time for even the administration to come up with the policy for what kind of essential services supplies could be continued. And during that time, if we could show some empathy towards your partners and the customers, I think that goes in a long way. For us, it was very important to ensure that we are able to supply daily replenishment of the medicines to all of our physical stores, which are spread across 25-30 cities in MP during those curfews and the lockdown times also. But that also helps you to build that kind of credibility in the minds of the people and your partners as well as the customers, because at the end of the day, if the partner is not able to receive the supplies, then he will not be able to help his customers also. And during this time, even the e-commerce also had to struggle to make sure that the last mile deliveries are happening, and they had to also rely on the local suppliers and the retailers. With that, I would say that one has to build whichever the technology solutions that we talk about. I think the key element and the ingredient should be the empathy. And with that empathy, if you can actually imbibe that empathy into each of your solutions, I think it would be a lot more realistic and sustainable solutions that we will, as a community, will be able to build for the society. With that, I think I come to the taking up the questions. Unless anybody wants to add anything, we would be okay to share, pick up the questions. Sneha, you want to pick up the questions? Or I think there are some questions on our Q&A board. Do you want to take some of them?
Feel free to, please. Yes, Suresh, feel free to, please. I see a number of questions in the Q&A section here as well.
Okay, I think one of the question is it's from Pushpendra. What measures can be taken in advance in case of another lockdown? Would you want to give a shot at this, Viral, Abhishek?
Yeah, sure.
This,
I mean, I'll go first, and then I'll let Abhishek share his perspective, right? Like I mentioned to you, so I'm not sure what business Pushpendra is particularly into, but I'll share more sort of generic, sort of knowledge on what measures I think will be very, very effective, and what measures you can take in advance in case of another lockdown. So irrespective of what you do, right? You could be in the business of manufacturing steel, or you could be a trader, you could run a kirana shop, right? For example. Now, when you know that a lockdown is going to bring to you an environment where you can't physically sell, you can't physically run your business, one thing that you need to do is make sure that you're prepared for an environment where physical interaction is not possible, right? And you'll have to take care of this preparedness across different aspects of your business, right? Starting with the way you market, the way you hire people, the way you hand out salaries, for example, right? It could be something as basic as that, right? Today, if you're not prepared to hand out salaries remotely, digitally, right? And if you're still reliant on handing out salaries physically via cash, what the lockdown will do is essentially it will take away the opportunity for you to hand out salaries to your folks, right? So you need to be prepared, to sort of operate remotely. And that's I think the most important thing to take care of in advance, assuming that there could be another lockdown. If Abhishek, you want
Yeah,
to
I
add
would.
something, I'll hand
Yeah,
it
I
to
would.
you.
I would.
Yeah.
I think I would just expand to what Viral you mentioned, right? Which is uh, whatever business we are running, we will have multiple stakeholders, and employees are one of those stakeholders. Viral, you had touched upon this in your previous comment as well, that your stakeholders will be customers, your stakeholders will be partners or suppliers. And let's say if a lockdown happens, right, you want to make sure that you are able to work with each of these stakeholders despite the lockdown, right? So, Viral, you touched upon how to work with your employees in case of a lockdown, but you have to now think about the same with respect to your suppliers or your partners, that hey, you are able to make sure that your supplier or partner is able to work with you in case of a lockdown. You're able to communicate, you are able to get your supplies in place, whether it's a physical or a virtual supply, right? And same for your customers, that hey, if your business relies on going and meeting customers to make a sale happen, but now there is a lockdown, you don't want the sales to go down, right? So are you able to quickly switch to a virtual way of selling your product to that customer? Is your sales team ready to make that switch happen overnight, right? So think of all the stakeholders that are important in your business and think about how that switch can happen overnight in case there is a lockdown that happens, because these lockdowns happen overnight. There is no planning in India.
right. I think great. I think there is a comment from someone. It says that digital transformation is so important. Is crucial. I think what that probably means, and maybe it's my interpretation only, but it is more about having more revenue stream could probably help you to diversify your revenue model and not only restrict one of the channel which may face more difficulty than the others. You always have an option of continuing revenue stream coming in. But at the same time, kind of leveraging the technology to be more efficient within your business model. I think that's really a very valid point, and I would really resonate with it. I think what this pandemic has also taught everybody is to kind of be more and more lean and mean, and technology adoption has really taken a good stride forward, especially in the MSME sector and even the much more smaller sector as well. I mean, now you just think about it, आप ₹5 की चाय के लिए भी आप पेटीएम कर सकते हो. So that is the level that the payment system or the digitalization has gone. I mean, this is something was absolutely unheard of just about a few years ago. So nobody could even ever imagine that you could pay ₹3, ₹4, or ₹5 through digital, and there is no cash handling required for that. And this has been well adopted by all the roadside street vendors and everybody. So I think there's this phenomenal stride that we have made forward in that space. So with that, I think thanks everybody. I would like to congratulate and thank everybody for being on this panel and share your wisdom and insight. Any other things that you want to add, Sneha? Please feel free to do that. You're on mute, Sneha.
Yeah, on mute, yeah.
But if there's anything that you would like to just conclude the whole session with a couple of pointers, if any of the three of you would want to start the whole session today in 3 pointers. One is taking care of the stakeholders, from my understanding. Make sure that all sides of stakeholders are taken care of and be ready, be prepared to do an overnight change if the need be, is what I understood from the discussion. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for such wonderful insights. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Viral. And thank you, Sureshji, for moderating the session beautifully. Thank you so very much.
Most welcome. Thanks once again.
Thank you, and all the best, everyone.
Thank you for having us. Yeah. Thank you.